you tell me how fine-tuning happened randomly?
Okay. Well, how's about this? We only have one universe, okay? So we don't know if it could be any different. So all these multiple possible alternatives that you bring up could they may.
How many alternatives could there be other than the one we got?
Well, we've only got one universe, so this could be the only.
So what's the probability that the universe is the way it is?
Constants. Well, the constants may not be any different.
What's the probability of the universe being the way it is?
No, you don't understand what I just said. The constants may not be any different because the constants may be the same they are, which means there's no possibility of any alternatives.
What are you on about?
Do you understand?
What?
No, you don't understand. Okay, let me try something a bit simpler. Have you heard of Douglas Adams' puddle analogy?
Yes.
Okay.
Balls. Just really tell me it.
Do you think that may be relevant to the?
I don't know what you're talking about. Just let me help you. Just talk.
Hold on, Ehsan, you're assuming that constants exist, because they simply exist. Rather, you would acknowledge that you don't get systems from chaos, so there can't be constants if there's only chaos. So your inference there seems to be absurd. That's why we didn't get systems.
You get systems built up from physical processes. So that's how things happen.
Physical processes are processes because they're systems. So you get systems from systems. That's what you're basically saying.
You have
from processes, and processes are systems.
Processes that build up. That's how you get complexity.
Physical processes
like that photosynthesis.
Ehsan,
okay.
Ehsan.
So if I can go back to the Douglas Adams puddle analogy.
Ehsan, understand my point, please. I'm begging you. Ehsan, please understand my point. When you say you get systems from a process is a system. It's not chaotic nor random. It is systematic. So if you get systems from systems, then that's something which is ordered. It is a fact that you can't get order and systems from chaos because then only chaos would exist. So you can't say we get systems from process to refute the point that you can't get that you can get chaos from systems. Systems from chaos. Do you understand that point, Ehsan? Yes or no? I'm gonna wait for him to unmute. Do you, Dr. Iman, am I wrong in making that statement?
No, I agree with you. So if something appears to be chaotic but results in a system, it means it wasn't chaotic to start with.
Well, not necessarily, because you've got things like radioactive decay, where there is some sort of underlying chaos, but we can predict the rate of radioactive decay. So that's
the problem with that example is that it's a common example. The problem with that example is the fact that you can predict the radioactive decay means that what we're not able to predict is the individual particle that breaks down to release the radiation, or the particle that breaks down and release the particle. But the fact that it's happening in a metered way means that there is a system there. There is something that's causing a regularity of breakdown, i.e. the half-life. We just don't understand. We just don't know how that is. And that's really pointing to the fact that we're going to at some stage know why a particular subatomic particle is breaking down to release that radiation. But because we don't know it now, it doesn't mean that it's random. It's just like saying that when I throw the dice, it appears the random number comes up. But if I know all the variables that go with that, then that becomes no longer a random event. It's actually a very highly predictable event. But what prevents me from saying that this is not chaotic is my lack of knowledge. So this is so all you're demonstrating is that because we don't know how the system works, that therefore there is randomness. This is just an admission of a lack of knowledge of the variables within the system. It doesn't make it actually
that's part of the problem,
random
because
or chaotic.
If we don't know much about a system, that it can appear chaotic. But it still.
So I agree. So it's an appearance as opposed. It's an appearance as opposed to an actuality. That's the point that we're making.
Okay, so it may appear systemic. So if I can just go back to this puddle analogy, since you may not have heard about it. So if you imagine a puddle becomes conscious, okay, so it wakes up and it looks around and it sees that it fits its hole perfectly. The puddle can easily think that the hole was designed for it. Okay, so in fact the puddle was made to fit the hole. Another way I think about it is if you have a glass of water, you fill the glass with water, the water takes the exact shape of the inside of the glass. Okay, so the water takes the shape of the inside of the glass because that came later. So you can't say that the universe was designed for us because we came after all of that. So we evolved to fit in with the universe. So that's why the fine-tuning argument doesn't really work.
Fine-tuning's got nothing to do with us.
Well, if your point is that the fine-tuning is that it's such a rare occurrence and that it's designed for us, then this.
I didn't say it's designed for us. I'm saying it's designed. No. I said it's designed for the universe to be the way it is.
Okay, well, as I said, we don't know if it's any different. And if you say,
well, no, what we can do is very simple. How many different ways could the universe have been, with regards, with regards nuclear powers, with regards electromagnetism, with regards gravity? How many? How many different alternatives could it have been?
Well, that was my first point. We don't know if it could be any other alternatives.
Well, we kind of do know.
We don't know if the constants could be any different, and we've only got one universe to compare it to. So it's quite possible that this could be the only way it could be.
Well, no, that's not true, is it? Yes, why did gravity have to be the way it is?
Because we do. It could be an inherent property of the particles.
What does that even mean?
Their mass attraction. Well, okay, it's a bit difficult for you. Okay,
it's not difficult. You're just
talking gobbledygook, mate.
No, I'm not. It's
something when you say it's an inherent
you're
property.
Reading books written by creationists, but let's try a different example.
Say, well, no. Let's use this example. No, let's stay on this example. How many ways could gravity have been different? The gravitational pull, could it have been different? Could it have been different?
Well, for a start, we don't know because we don't have any.
You don't know if it could have been different.
We don't know. I thought it was random. Examples, so...
Was it not random?
No, I wouldn't say gravity's random because it's based on its inherent properties of particles.
Are you saying the Big Bang wasn't random?
No, I didn't say the Big Bang was random at all.
Oh, so you believe the Big Bang was controlled?
As far as we know, it followed physical processes.
No, was it guided?
I have no evidence to say that it's guided externally.
But then if it's not guided, it's random, isn't it?
No, not necessarily. It can follow physical processes. No, it's something. So if you
physical process, okay. Do you believe physical processes?
That follows.
One second. Do you believe physical processes can be random?
No, because they follow
the point.
They follow the.
Can physical processes be random?
I'm not aware of any physical processes that are random. There are things that can appear random, but they follow.
What about random mutation?
Physical process.
What about random mutation? Is that a physical process?
That's a physical process, but
is it random?
When you describe it as random mutation, is
it random?
It's actually ordered change. It's actually ordered small changes.
It's ordered change. It's ordered change,
it's
not random change.
It's saying what it is. Okay, if you could let me a chance to explain. It's when you have you do have these mutations, and it's the specific trigger that causes that mutational change, and then you have. Creates favorable characteristics, which is
are all these mutations positive? Selected. Are all these mutations positive?
Some are negative as well.
And what's the probability of getting a positive mutation?
I don't know.
Absurd. Anyway.
No, it's not.
I think Hassan, if I can just come in there,
okay.
Hassan.
Can I? Go on.
I think you're being a little bit unfair here, really, because if we look at, for example, the force of gravity, if it's out by hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of decimal places, just 1 point in hundreds and hundreds of decimal places, the universe either explodes at such a speed that you don't have enough gravity to make matter, planets, the sun, and everything that we would need to have life, any type of life in the universe, right? If the force of gravity is weakened by just, again, hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of decimal places, then it simply implodes back on itself, back into a singularity. And again, there are no planets, there are no stars, nothing basically forms, and therefore there is no life. So I think the point that we're trying to make, Ehsan, is this: that when you add up all of these different probabilities, you see, it becomes infinitesimally small for it just to have happened that way. And on the other side of the coin, it's infinitesimally large that this was somehow orchestrated. And that is what the fine-tuning argument is for the universe. Yeah. Now, one of the things, Ehsan, that I learned, and is that from Imran? Imran's put that up. I'll let Imran come in there. The thing is this, Ehsan, if you just take into consideration the gravity, the cosmological constant, and the strong and weak nuclear forces, if you just have these three probabilities, the probability of these three reaching where they need to be for the universe to be able to sustain life is like one atom in the entire known universe. And there are at least another 40 laws of physics that have to conform to those type of probabilities. Now, the point here, Ehsan, is this, right? I think if you were reasonable, I don't think you would be arguing that this somehow just happened by itself. You could say, well, we don't know maybe how it happened, but yes, you're right. It is extremely, in terms of probability, very, 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 we're going to say very low. We're talking about like one atom in the entire universe, right?
Yeah.
For it to just have happened by itself, right? So
I think you don't really.
Ehsan,
you're just repeating the same.
I think, Ehsan, I'll let you come in, but I think, Ehsan, what you would have to accept, Ehsan, is that from our stance to argue that there had to be something that was responsible for that level of intricacy and that level of measuring things out in those probabilities, and to not have faith in some unknown material cause, I don't think it's an unreasonable stance for us to actually take, Ehsan, to be honest.
No, I'm saying I understand.
So I just wanted to, sorry, guys. So I just want to, because I think the way that the argument is being put forward from yourself, Ehsan, is interesting, because the puddle analogy is quite a common analogy. And, we happen to find ourselves in the universe, so of course it fits us. And this is what the puddle is saying. And you're saying that, look, we only have one set of data, so we can't compare it to other sets of data. And those are reasonable points, but actually they're misapplied in the example of fine-tuning. And the reason that they're misapplied, so this is a graph I've just put up on the screen, and this shows various constants that I'm not going to name them all. That people can just look this up. There's lots of these constants that are available. There's, as Brother Abbas mentioned. And what's plotted here is that the effect on the potential a life-permitting universe existing if these variables are changed. And what you see, so these are basically the plots of these different variables here. And you see in this small area that I'm sort of just circling, in this green area, is the only range within which a life-permitting universe exists. In a universe where life can possibly exist, ourselves would be included within that.
Yeah.
Now, Now, when you see what the potential constants could have been, i.e., they could have been different. If they were different, there would be no one there to say that they were different, because there wouldn't be any life there to make that
exactly.
statement.
Yeah.
So the fact that we are within this universe and it has the properties in terms of the constants to give a life-permitting universe tells us that we are in a very rare and a rare set of constants that have come together to permit this. Now, the question here is, how rare is this? Is it something that we would expect that reasonably could happen? So I'm just going to turn my camera off. Is this something that we would expect that reasonably can happen, or is it very, very unlikely? Now, the numbers here are really staggering. I mean, they're really staggering. And what I would suggest that you do, Ehsan, is actually just to look at some of the constants.
Sure. No,
I understand. And what you'll start to see is that so the numbers are. Let me just stop sharing my screen.
Okay.
So the numbers that we're talking about are in the magnitude of being larger than the number of particles within the universe. And if you were to move. And imagine you take every single subatomic particle within the universe, and you had one of them, and that one particle you tag with a color or something to recognize
I think
it with.
In the interest of
the chances
time,
of our universe being as it is to permit life would be the equivalent of you being blindfolded and told to pick an atom randomly from within the universe, and it happens to be that red painted atom. I mean, that's
okay.
I
know what you're saying.
Please,
one second, Ihsan. One second, Ihsan.
Go on.
Just using the doctor's example. That scenario, you'd be 10 billion times more likely than that. So it's not. It doesn't stop there. It actually.
I get that, but let's just say, even if the constants could be different, okay, and we don't know if they can be, even if the constants could be different, and it's exceedingly rare that things turned out as they are, that doesn't necessarily mean it was made to be for life, okay? Because even if you had like a 1 in a billion, because you have lotteries of 1 in 150 million, and somebody wins a lottery of 1 in 150 million. So but
this isn't 1 in 150 million, isn't it?
I know.
What you're having to posit, but the only way.
I just want to make this point. Please. I give you the point that it's exceedingly rare. Of course, we wouldn't be here if it was different, but that doesn't necessarily mean that it was made for us. The fact that it's exceedingly rare.
What's required? We understand the point. You're saying that, okay, fine, this is very rare, but doesn't mean that somehow this is specifically made for us. There's a problem with that view, and the problem with that view is this. And the plot that I showed you was actually doing the physics, changing the constants to see what the result would be, and that small triangle was where there was a life permitting use. Now we're in that universe. The question is, why? How is that the case?
How is
now
the question? Yeah,
the only response to the rarity of this event occurring. So, for example, someone winning the lottery, hundreds and thousands and millions of people will be doing the lottery, and one of them will win. The only reasonable thing that people have tried to do, I think it's unreasonable, but the only reasonable position that people have tried to do is to say, look, there are multiverses, there are millions and millions of universes, infinite number of universes, so it's bound to happen at some stage. Now, what that is positing something even more incredible to try and explain where we are in this scenario.
And also, Imran,
without any evidence, there's no evidence for a multiverse.
And also, Ihsan, your analogy of somebody winning the lottery, saying 150 million people, right? The problem with your analogy is this, Ihsan. If your neighbor, let's say, won the lottery, okay, and then the next week's draw, they won the lottery again, and then the week after, they won it again, and that happened for the next 50 years, would you attribute that to chance?
It's possible by chance, but I would say we'll want to look into that a bit more detail, because
would you reasonably?
We know about.
Would you
reasonably
attribute that to chance, Ihsan? Let's be honest here.
I wouldn't know, but then we know people can fix the
lottery.
You wouldn't.
So
we know that's a possibility.
So that's
we know it's a possibility that people can fix the lottery.
That's the point.
Yeah,
Ihsan, that's the point. The point here is not somebody winning the lottery out of 150.
No. The question is this, Abbas. The question is, why wouldn't he attribute it to chance?
Yeah.
Why not chance?
Okay. Because what's going to be more likely? We know people can fix the lottery, so somebody winning the lottery more than once was probably more likely that someone has fixed the lottery.
But why not chance?
Than it by chance. Well,
why not chance?
I've just told you because it's more likely, because we know people can possibly fix the lottery. That's more likely someone did fix the lottery if somebody has won it more than once.
Yeah, so basically what you're saying, that on balance,
we agree with
balance of probability, Ihsan, what you're saying is that it's highly unlikely, because rationally, the probability of somebody winning it every single week for the next 50 years is, it can happen, it is possible, but it is so improbable that you would never reasonably accept it as a rational possibility. So the point here is, why do you do that to the universe? Because the universe, the statistics for the universe actually far outweigh the lottery.
Look at Muhit's example. Winning the lottery 10,000 times in a row while getting struck by lightning each time is more probable than a life-permitting universe.
Okay. Well, firstly, those calculations done by those creationists.
Why couldn't the universe have been fixed the way it is? Why couldn't somebody have fixed the universe the way it is, rather than this absurd chance?
Okay, well, firstly, there's no evidence for that. But secondly,
there's no evidence for somebody fixing the lottery.
Okay. Firstly, we're going back to the point about we don't know what comes after us. So let's just imagine that we have global warming, all humanity dies, and a new species evolves that fits perfectly into.
If some butts were pots and pans, there'd be no need to tinkers. What are you on about?
Yep, and so the species that comes after us, that is much more suited to live in hotter temperatures, could say that those hot temperatures was fine-tuned for them to evolve.
I just want to say
so we not necessarily be the end product.
I don't think you understand the argument of fine-tuning, to be honest.
Ehsan, I just want to say that because you made this statement that
I don't think you do.
And I'm just going to post something in the chat. So the paper that I put up is actually from Harvard University, and it's from a physics department. It's not by a creationist. Published in 2007. I've put the link in the paper. Have a look at it.
Sure.
So what I'd suggest is don't write off this as a creationist thing, because these constants were not discovered by specifically creationists.
Yeah, I know. I'm saying they're used by creationists. Yeah.
So the numbers aren't exaggerated. The numbers just are, and they need to be explained. And I think that's the issue here. And the explanation that, look, we were really lucky. Some people may buy that, but when your luck is this amazing, I love Brother Makit's example of the winning the lottery and being struck by lightning every single time and doing that several times in a row. If you're that lucky, then I would say that somebody up there is looking after you. And I think that's the problem that it raises. This is why the fine-tuning argument. It's nice to think, yeah, but if you want to say that actually no, this is completely random, you have to have a reasonable explanation for that, and that's difficult to come up with if I'm from my perspective.
Okay, I mean, obviously you're already inclined to believe in the God, so that puts you down that path.
And you're already inclined to disbelieve in a God, so that puts you down that path. I just have two things.
No, because
first thing is when
Sorry, you were about to say something.
Sorry, which is it's very strange when the top boys asked you to come on. You said you were too tired. Then you turn up here. The child is a bit confused by that, But the second thing is, what is particularly interesting to me is you started off by basing your argument on randomness and chaos, and then at the end of it, you said that randomness and chaos does not exist. You actually accepted Dr. Imran's and my claim. But it's good to see that you can learn, and it's not too simple for you. Us hacks, we don't know too much about science, but that seems to be something that we were aware of. We're not as trained as you are, Almighty One, but I just wanted to put that out there. You did eventually accept our answer on that point. Why is that?
No, I accepted. Okay, let me explain. Firstly, I still stick to the point that we don't know if the constants are any different, but when you brought up the possibility that the constants could be different, I accepted it for the point of the discussion to say that even if it is even if it is exceedingly rare, that still doesn't mean it was made for us. I just accepted it for the point of the discussion.
No, you actually accepted it, and when Dr. Imran, Dr. Imran, you're going to make the point. Please go ahead.
No, go. Please go ahead.
No. He made it towards you. I want you to respond to him because
no. I don't know if I'm going to make the same point as you. So please continue. Finish your sentence.
Okay. So Dr. Imran asked you, is that process random or is it not random? And you said it's not random. It's just something that we can't account for. So you accepted his claim on variables, right? So therefore, you didn't put it as a hypothesis.
Yeah, I said that at the beginning. Yeah,
totally. No, you dismissed that at the start and you accepted it at the end.
No, as I've just said, I accepted it at the beginning, but when you brought up the point about the variables could be different, even though I said it doesn't, there's no evidence they could be different. When you said that they could be different, I accepted it for the point of understanding your argument and making the counter argument. That
why couldn't it be different? Where are you getting this from?
Hold on, Hamza, don't allow him to shift. Go on. Making up.
I've said the same point to you about 3 times.
No. Dr. Imran made a very specific question. Is it random or is it not? Yes, you give a similar answer to Hamza after having accepted Dr. Imran's point. So the thing is, you can't say it was just a hypothetical answer to Hamza's claim. You accepted, look, people in the comments are accepting that this is the case. Here is the thing, Hassan. If it was just me and you, I get if you come to that conclusion, but you don't have all of us here and everyone in the chat who witnessed it on multiple occasions. Dr. Imran, what were you going to say? I apologize, Hamza, but Dr. Imran was about to make a point.
No, that's fine. So basically, the point that I was going to make, so Jazakallah khair for that, you really nailed that point, Tijaz. So the point that I was going to make is that you said that the variables could or could not be different, and I'm saying that what the scientists, the physicists have done is they know the relationship between the constants and how they affect the physical characteristics of the universe. This is the calculations they would do. If gravity was this, what would be the effect on the universe? If the speed of light was this, what would be the effect on the universe? So you can actually mathematically establish an effect of changing the variable on the universe, and this has been done.
You can postulate what the effect would be. That doesn't necessarily
this is the beautiful thing. I love the way you use that, Ehsan. I love the postulation, because this is what physics is. It's based upon mathematical models of what the universe would be like. And then the evidence is established later to support the model. So the postulation for these models is based upon the current constants that we have. And now so the relationships that are established for these constants with each other and the effect on the universe is from observation of the current universe that we have. So evidence-based empirical starting point. And then what you do is you adjust the equation. So if A plus B equals C, you say, well, if I keep increasing C, I know what's going to happen to A or B, because you can have that relationship with them. And you can, so they will do the same thing here, and they can plot the effect on the way the universe would be. Would there be any matter? Would there be particles? Would we be able to generate water, for example? Would carbon form? Hamza's favorite topic. Now, all of these things, you can postulate them, and you can work out actually that the window in which we have a viable universe is actually this narrow compared to where all of the possibilities of where the constants could go. So we know that we are in a very finely tuned universe. Now, then the question becomes, are we just really, really lucky? Or is there something else? Now, we're not saying this is the only argument. This is actually a cumulative argument. And there's many, many things that point towards. I mean, we had that argument earlier on about rationality. We're talking about objective morals. We've had this discussion with you. We've spoken about, so many things. And this is just another nail in the coffin, I would say, of the idea that we are just, a random generated process.
Because I think to say finely tuned, you need to show that it could be tuned. So if I give you another way, if I showed you a guitar and the guitar played a perfect tune, somebody could have tuned that guitar, but that guitar could have just come off the factory sounding completely perfect.
So it had a creator,
perfect note without anybody tuning it in the first place. So you need to show that even if it does seem like it's finely tuned, we need to show that the tuning is possible.
Yeah, the factory tuned it, mashallah, it had a creator. We completely accept this. Thank you, Ehsan, for qualifying our point.
I think, Ehsan, you're missing the point here, really. Ehsan, because the point here, you're missing the point, because intuitively, when we see something incredibly complex and well measured, we assume rationally that it couldn't have just been thrown together through some random effect. And that's
by evolution, probably.
And Ehsan, that is something we're talking about physics here, not evolution. We're talking about the beginning of the universe. Okay, we're not talking about evolution. I mean, to be honest, Ehsan, I think, with all due respect, I think you're being a little bit disingenuous, because we're talking about physics. We're talking about the beginning of the universe,
and he's talking about biology.
And then you just throw a red herring in about evolution, thinking somehow.
Sorry. I thought you were going.
So you're making a point, and that's just being, I think, unreasonable. I think
the thing is, Ehsan, biology is wrecked as well, and so is chemistry.
The point I'm making, Ehsan, is this:
no, it's not.
That whenever we see something that is incredibly measured out and precise, we automatically assume, reasonably, I would say, that it has been designed that way. But when it comes to the universe. when it comes to the universe, Ehsan, what you're doing is you're offering these examples of guitars and puddles, when in reality, or lottery, when in reality we're talking about, as Imran said, and as Hamza said, one particle of matter in the entire known universe, and you color it a different color, and then you've got, was it 10 billion times more chance of locating that one electron or particle. I mean, those are sort of ludicrous probabilities that we're talking about, and you're talking about puddles and guitars, and you're talking about the lottery, somebody winning it once, as if somehow that is somehow equal to what we're talking about. And I just think it's not really reasonable to do that.
No, okay, it's an analogy. But I mean, if you look at the solar system, that's physics. You got the sun at the center. You got the planets that orbit. You got the moons that orbit the planets. That's all. It does look perfectly ordered, but it all follows beautiful gravity and forces that way. So,
are you saying it couldn't be any other way?
Well, as I said, we don't know if it could be any other way.
Is that what the scientific community is saying, or is it just you?
The scientific, no, it's not just me. The scientific community.
So which renowned physicist? Stephen Hawking say this?
Well, actually, I mean, Stephen Hawking said if the universe is fine-tuned for anything, it's for making black holes.
Did Stephen Hawking believe that the universe couldn't be any other way?
It's probably one of many who said that. I think, yes.
Well, he said that the universe couldn't be any other way.
I don't know if the
so the universe is the way it is deliberately. That's what you're saying.
No. No
one's saying
yes. Well, only theists saying it's deliberately. But I'm saying is even if it couldn't be any other way. We don't know if we don't.
How would we know if it could be any other way? What are you talking about here? How would you determine? How would you determine gravitational force, for example, and electromagnetism? How is this determined? What governs it?
I mean, from our current understanding, it's governed by their inherent properties. We don't know.
So they govern themselves.
We'd have to find, from their inherent properties, we'd have to find an alternative universe and see if things could be different there.
You got to stop using the phrase inherent properties, because then that just belies the question. Where do those properties come from? Or from other inherent properties. Okay, where do those inherent properties come from? From other inherent properties. It just goes back and back until you can't say any longer inherent properties. They have to have come from something deliberately. Again, systems
not deliberately.
Don't produce. So it's not deliberately. So then it's random then.
No. Well, sorry, when you say deliberate, then you're
if it's not random,
an intention behind it.
Well, yes, because it's ordered.
Do you believe in the Big Bang? Do you believe in the Big Bang?
No. Well, firstly, it's not a case of either deliberate or random.
Do you believe in the Big Bang?
With regards,
okay. Well, no, it is.
Okay, I'm just answering you. I believe in the Big Bang is the best. Will you shut up and just let me answer your question, okay?
Will you shut up and answer my question?
Whoa.
I'm just trying to answer your question. If you stop
answer the bloody question. Do you believe in the Big Bang, yes or no?
I accept the Big Bang as the the best.
Was it a controlled explosion or was it random?
The expansion of the universe after the start of the Big Bang was following by its physical processes. So
was it controlled or was it just chaos, random?
I wouldn't say it's random because it followed physical processes, but it may appear controlled.
Why do you keep saying physical processes are not random, where you believe in natural selection, which is based on random natural processes? I don't get it. I can't marry you up.
No, I know you don't.
Right. So natural selection is based on random mutation, yet you don't think natural processes are random. Whereas the random mutation according to the natural selection idea, is a natural process. So natural processes can be random. So why do you keep saying, it's not random because it's a natural process, when your worldview says random mutation, which is a natural process, is random?
Well,
I don't understand it.
It means it's the appearance of it. So it's
no. Random mutation is something happens within the cell. Yeah, is it not random
within
then?
the DNA? within the DNA.
Is it random or not?
Well, it appears random.
Is it random or is it deliberate?
It's there you go. That's a false dichotomy.
What's the opposite of random? Forgive me. Sorry. Ordered. We're laughing at.
It's not a false dichotomy. It's the law of the excluded middle. Either it's random or it's deliberate. It can't be something other than it. So take your appeal to fallacy out of the window.
Okay. I mean, it
can
appear.
Good night, Ehsan. Abbas has got to sleep. Right. Hamza's gone.
Okay.
Imran has.
I've got work tomorrow, so.
Nice God, may God help you.
I feel so sorry for your patience, mate, with this mentality.
I'm sure Ehsan's an excellent doctor. Ehsan, you know what I would say
is he a human doctor?
Yeah, he's a human doctor, and I'm glad he's in the life limiting universe so that we can also help other people.
And I've got work today as well, so.
Yeah, I can. It sounds like you're still there, actually, Ehsan. So what I would say is, you know, the argument for from the anthropic principle, the argument from the complexity of the universe, the fine-tuning argument is really, it's quite a profound one, and I think it's really important to understand that there is a need to explain the way the universe is without just saying, look, we're lucky. And I think that's the argument that you're presenting. Maybe not in that, not as a crude way as that, but that's really what it comes down to, that we just happen to be here, and you know, so what, or we're just really lucky to be here, when all of the calculations that we do tell us that actually, speaking from a physics perspective, this is very, very unlikely a scenario for a universe to end up in, and I think that needs an explanation. And then all the other points we've made previously on other topics about atheism, I think you pointed to the fact that we may be holding these views because we are inclined to believe in a creator, and Ijaz pointed out the fact that that's something that can be put back to you, that you may be inclined to disbelieve in these things, because what you posit instead is, or what not, maybe you're not personally, but is multiverses, which are which do not really account for where we find ourselves, and there's no evidence for them either. So I wish you all the best.
Thank you.
Have a look at what we presented to you, particularly look at the fine tuning of, say, look at some of the constants and look at how finely tuned they are. Yeah. And then maybe try and think of a way of explaining why that's the case.
Okay. I suggest you also look up, you know, some of the rebuttals to fine tuning as well, so that we all broaden our minds.
So, can I leave you with some homework, Ihsan?
Go on.
Find me something from our human experience where some information has just come randomly from anywhere in our human experience. Yeah.
Sorry, what was that?
Okay, within our human experience, find something that came together that contains information randomly. No, homework.
Okay.
Homework.
I'll have a think.
Yeah, I look forward to your answer.
Imran, just finish what you were going to say, and then we'll end the stream, inshallah.
Carol Wright's a Christian. If you want to have a little bash at her, she's an old lady in America.
Okay, but Imran, just finish what you
were saying. This question on the screen, though.
Sure. Ihsan, we wish you all the best. You take care. Have a good evening.
Okay. Bye-bye.
Nazem, you just answer this
with me. You just confused us. We're going to fight after this, doctor.
I said Ihsan. I said Ihsan, not Ijaz.
Started
Nazem, do you want to answer this question on the screen?
Yeah, just very quickly, I was going to recommend a book by Mufti Taqi Usmani. The book's called Approaches to Chronic Sciences, and he more or less addresses all these questions in that.
Just answer him now. Okay, one, the Quran, because it claims to be the of Abraham, and if you look in the Quran, you'll see all the prophets of God, all the ones. So the God of Abraham, we know who he is and who he sent and which prophets he sent, which Quran confirms. First thing, how do you know Quran you have now is Muhammad had not a redaction? Well, we know that because the Quran was a community project when it was put together, and we know that it was memorized, and it was also written down, and it was all married up. And why is Bukhari more reliable than Muhammad's sayings than the Gospel of Jesus? Because you don't know who authored the Gospel of Jesus' words. None of them were eyewitnesses to what's written in the Gospels, or should I say gossips. Whereas when the hadith we have are narrated by people we can verify, see if they were there, see if they told the truth. All right, next. Latest Clifton. Bye now.